It began with a beep, a simple rhythmic signal, coming from the cold, infinite darkness of space. It was a sound that shouldn't have been there. It was a signal that announced a new era for humanity, a moment where the boundaries of our world were pushed beyond the atmosphere for the first time. But that signal didn't just mark a scientific achievement. It ignited a fire that would redefine power, technology, and the very destiny of our species. This was the start of the space race, a period of intense competition that would force us to invent the future faster than we ever thought possible. To understand why a simple beep caused such panic, we must look back at a world still reeling from the total devastation of World War II. In the shadows of the war's end, a secret scramble was underway. The hunt was on for the technology that had terrorized London, the V-2 rocket. The US and the Soviet Union both knew that whoever captured the German rocket scientists would hold the key to the next great weapon. The world was being divided, the Cold War was beginning, and the high ground of space was the ultimate strategic prize. Two superpowers, two ideologies, locked in a struggle for survival. And then, without warning, the Soviets struck the first blow. Sputnik 1 was only the size of a beach ball, but its impact was astronomical. For the first time, a man-made object was circling the planet. In America, the Sputnik panic took hold. If the Soviets could launch a satellite, they could launch a nuclear warhead to any city on Earth. The race wasn't just in the sky, it was in the schools. A massive push for science and engineering education began, shaping a new generation. The American response was public and humiliating. The Vanguard rocket, touted as the US answer, exploded just seconds into its first launch. But from failure came resolve. In early 1958, the US finally reached orbit with Explorer 1, discovering the hidden radiation belts around our world. The race soon turned to living beings. The Soviets sent Laika, a stray from the streets of Moscow, to be the first animal to orbit the Earth. Her journey was a one-way trip, a somber reminder of the steep human and ethical costs of this unprecedented high-stakes competition. The Americans followed with their own biological pioneers, sending chimpanzees like Ham to test the effects of weightlessness and high G-forces. But the ultimate goal was a human. In April 1961, the Soviet Union struck again. Yuri Gagarin was about to change history forever. He climbed into the Vostok 1 capsule, knowing there was no guarantee of return. His famous "Poyakali, let's go," echoed through the base. For 108 minutes, Gagarin was the only human not on Earth. He looked down and saw a planet without borders, a fragile home for all. America was stunned once more. The Soviet lead seemed total. The world wondered if the United States could ever hope to catch up. Weeks later, Alan Shepard became the first American in space. It was a suborbital flight, but it proved the US was finally in the game. President Kennedy knew a small step wasn't enough. He made a bold, almost impossible promise: to land a man on the moon and return him safely. This ignited a total mobilization of American science and industry. 400,000 people and 20,000 companies worked toward one single goal. The Gemini program was the bridge. It was here that NASA learned the difficult physics of rendezvous, docking, and working in open space. Ed White became the first American to walk in space. For 23 minutes, he was a human satellite, floating in the most hostile environment known. But disaster was never far away. The Apollo 1 fire took the lives of 3 astronauts on the ground, nearly ending the dream of the moon. Instead of quitting, NASA stopped and redesigned everything. Every wire, every hatch, every procedure was refined to be safer and better. The answer was the Saturn V, a machine of pure power, 36 stories tall, generating more energy than the entire US power grid at liftoff. In 1968, Apollo 8 reached the moon. They didn't land, but they saw the Earth rise over the lunar horizon, a sight that changed our perspective forever. July 16, 1969. Apollo 11 was ready. 3 men, Armstrong, Aldrin, and Collins, were about to attempt the impossible journey. For 3 days, they traveled through 250,000 miles of silence. The moon grew larger, a cold, gray target in their sights. The eagles separated, Armstrong and Aldrin were on their own, descending toward a surface where no human had ever stood. The computer was failing. Alarms rang out. Fuel was running low. Armstrong had to take manual control, searching for a clear spot to land. With only seconds of fuel remaining, the Eagle touched down. "Tranquility Base here. The Eagle has landed." The world erupted in joy. One small step for a man, one giant leap for mankind. In that moment, the impossible became a part of human history. Armstrong and Aldrin spent hours on the surface, collecting rocks and planting a flag. They weren't just Americans. They were ambassadors for Earth. But when the footprints were left behind, the real impact was just beginning back home. The space race was the greatest tech catalyst in history. To get to the moon, computers had to be small. This forced the development of integrated circuits, the literal brains of every device you own. Satellite technology, born from the need to track rockets and spy on rivals, became the foundation of our global internet and communications. Every time you find your way with a phone, you're using a network of satellites that exist only because we dared to race for the stars. Medicine leaped forward too. Digital image processing, invented to clarify grainy photos from the moon, led directly to MRI and CT scans. Even your glasses benefit. The scratch-resistant coating on your lenses was originally developed to protect astronaut helmet visors. Water purification systems, perfected to keep astronauts alive, now provide clean, safe drinking water for millions in the developing world. Innovation is often driven by competition. When the stakes are global survival and pride, human creativity finds its highest, most powerful gear. The space race pushed science forward by decades in just 10 short years. It proved that no problem is unsolvable with enough will. The impact was psychological. For the first time, we saw Earth as a single, fragile entity. It changed how we saw ourselves as a species. So, who truly won the race? While the US reached the moon, the answer is far more nuanced and far more beneficial to everyone. The Soviets achieved nearly every major first before 1969. They proved that space was a viable and necessary frontier for mankind. The United States reached the ultimate finish line. But the race itself forced both sides to innovate at a pace never seen before or since. The true winner was science. The race benefited every person on this planet, creating a technological foundation we still rely on today. The competition eventually cooled into cooperation. The ISS stands today as a monument to what humanity can achieve when we work together. Today, a new race has begun. This time, it involves private companies and new nations, all aiming for Mars and the worlds beyond. But they all stand on the shoulders of those 1960s giants. The path they blazed is the one we are still following into the future. We live in a world defined by the infrastructure of space, from predicting weather to connecting every human being on the planet. What started as a desperate competition between two nations became the greatest period of innovation in the history of our world. It pushed technology forward. It expanded the boundaries of the possible, and it changed our world forever. Join us as we look toward the next great frontier. The journey is far from over. If you enjoyed this look at our past, imagine what our future holds. Subscribe and join the mission. This is YG Tech. Like and subscribe to stay tuned for the next breakthrough. Thanks for watching. Join us as we look toward the next great frontier.